Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's topic is something that I know a lot of learners struggle with, thinking in English instead of translating from their native language.
Hey Hamza, that's so true. Translating in your head really slows you down and makes speaking English feel unnatural.
I used to face this problem a lot. I'd try to say something in English, but first, I would think about it in my native language, translate it in my head, and then try to speak. It was slow, confusing, and frustrating.
Exactly. And it can feel like your brain is juggling two languages at once, right?
Exactly. So let's dive into why this happens. Our brains are comfortable with the language we know best, so it tries to use that as a base. The key is to get comfortable with English itself.
That's a great strategy. I've heard many learners say that once they start doing that, they notice a big difference.
One way that helped me was surrounding myself with English as much as possible. I'd listen to English podcasts, watch English shows, and try to think about everyday things in English, even simple ones like, I'm hungry, or it's raining outside.
I agree. The more exposure you have to English, the more your brain starts recognizing patterns and understanding context without needing to translate.
Yes, it's like exercising a muscle. The more you use English in your thoughts, the faster your brain gets at doing it naturally.
It's definitely a mental exercise. And the cool thing is, it doesn't matter what level you're at, anyone can start practicing this.
And there's a big mindset shift. You need to stop worrying about speaking perfectly. Just focus on getting your ideas out. Perfection comes later.
That's a really important point. A lot of learners freeze up because they're afraid of making mistakes. But thinking in English is a skill that needs practice, and mistakes are part of that.
Another thing that works is associating words directly with objects or actions. For example, instead of thinking of the word cat in your native language and then translating it to English, try to see a picture of a cat in your head whenever you hear the word cat.
I love that tip. It's all about retraining the brain, isn't it? It's like rewiring how we process language. Right. And don't forget that patience is key. You can't expect your brain to switch overnight, but with consistency, it will happen.
The more you practice this, the better you get. Eventually, it becomes second nature. It's also important to practice speaking out loud, even if you're alone. This helps connect your thoughts to spoken words faster.
Yes. And reading out loud or even just talking to yourself in English can make a big difference. It builds fluency and confidence.
And I'd add one last tip. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the learning process, and they help you improve. If you make it a habit to correct yourself, it speeds up the thinking in English process.
I couldn't agree more. Embrace the process, and remember that every mistake gets you closer to fluency.
So, let's summarize. If you want to stop translating in your head, start thinking in English, surround yourself with the language, don't worry about perfection, practice associating words with objects, and practice speaking regularly. Thanks for joining us today. Keep practicing, and soon, thinking in English will come naturally.
Great advice, Hamza. To everyone listening, keep practicing and remember, the goal is progress, not perfection. Thanks for tuning in. Vocabulary. Translate, to convert something from one language to another. Juggling, handling, or dealing with multiple things at once. Context, the situation or information surrounding an idea that helps with understanding. Questions. Why is it important to stop translating in your head while learning English? Translating slows you down and makes speaking feel unnatural. Thinking directly in English helps improve fluency and understanding. What are some ways to start thinking in English instead of translating? Surround yourself with English, practice associating words with objects, and speak out loud regularly.